Shiggity shiggity schwa. Third set, best versus effort. This is a good headliner type of match. Two heavyweights. Let's do it. Cross positions too. It's gonna be good. Except up at the 10 o'clock position in orange is best. That means down at the 5 o'clock position in beige is effort. Effort. Look at those stats. Best 7 wins, 6 losses. And the most interesting part about Best's record here, not only because he's been fielded so many damn times, basically in every series, probably in every series, just looking at this, but most of his wins are against Zerg. He's been tearing it up in PvZ as of late. I mean, even with Effort's record of being great against Protoss, he's got to be scared going up against Best. He's just been tearing up the Zerg race. I think he's only lost 1 game against Calm, but the rest of his Zerg opponents he is completely destroyed. So Best has probably the best grip on PvZ this season. But Effort's record is quite good as well. In fact, I'd say it's better than Best's because he has 6 wins and 4 losses. All the more impressive, I've mentioned this before actually, but it's all the more impressive because he came back from a long hiatus of not practicing professionally. He probably practiced on his own at home or something like that, or met up with his old practice partners, got in some practice time or something, but yeah, he basically just came back in, started all over, and he's at a 6-win, 4-loss record. Back to the good old effort. But there is what was probably a 12 pull or an overpull from the effort. The effort, oh, a little creative fan there, doing a little fold over thing. Interesting. But I'm so glad that Effort has dyed his hair back. That's the most important thing that I can mention in this game. Finally, Effort's hair is black and not blonde. He's come back down from the Super Saiyan, or he's transcended to Super Saiyan level 4 or whatever the hell that was. Yeah, I don't count Dragon Ball GT, by the way. It never happened. It's not canonical. It's kind of like, you know, Scooby-Doo, and then you have Scrappy-Doo. Yeah, Scrappy-Doo never happened. He wasn't canonical at all. Ooh, Best doing a great job of denying that Hatchery did it for a little while anyway. With the second base coming down, there is no Scrappy-Doo. Okay, going back into the game. Okay, Best just now putting down his cannon. He threw down his Nexus first, it seems, which has hurt Protoss a little bit as of late. Who was it that Weibe went up against a day or 2 ago? Damn it, I can't remember. But Weibe, he went for a 5 pull, scouted the completely correct way, just ran over. The other Protoss had put down Nexus first, and it was a massacre. One of the shortest games in history, I think. 3 minutes something. Not pretty. Okay, Cannon at the front saw the gateway coming down as well. Since it's this cross positions, I think we're going to see a hell of a game from these two. Best's strength and macro definitely helps him on a big map like this. I think Best, he probably loves 4-player maps because it gives him plenty of space away from his opponent, just macro up, and because that is Best's strength. And I think he has better macro than pretty much any other player on the scene. Any race, any player, his macro is insane. And I'm not just talking number of bases or anything like that, it's just throwing down gateways, being able to manage his gateways at all times. So impressive to watch. Okay, there's Effort trying to get this freaking scouting probe. Get out of here, jerk. Cybernetics core coming down the second assimilator from Best at the second base. Still trying to keep in there with this probe, but he's being chased around. And there's a layer coming up for Effort. He already has his third base. Didn't even notice that, in fact. But the third base is so freaking close to the main that, yeah, it's pretty safe to take that for any of the races. Put down his third base, gonna get that up and mining soon. Already had 1 drone mining at that base. Okay, there's one Zealot trying to keep away the Zerglings. Make sure they don't see the forge, see if it's spinning or anything like that. Yeah, I think the Zealot is actually moving out at this point. Yeah, the Zealot's moving out into the map. Zealot might actually try to pressure the third base, or might just be looking for the Zerglings in the middle. Okay, the Zerglings chasing around that probe. Scouts doesn't have the speed yet. As soon as the speed comes up, Best is going to have an extremely hard time scouting anything until his Corsair comes out, if he is working up to a Corsair build. It's very common. Sometimes the Stargate is skipped, however, which can make for an extremely strong build in and of itself. Going for Citadel of Adun and Templar Archives first gives you a lot of options, but it'll hurt you if your opponent goes for Mutas, that's for sure. Okay, Spire coming up for effort. Still one cannon at the front. That's generally what Protoss have been doing these days, just playing kind of risky. It's kind of risky to just throw down one cannon. It protects you against the Zergling threat, of course, but once the Hydralisks start bearing down on you, if it is a Hydralisk bust build, it becomes so difficult because you got to throw down 3 or 4 cannons at once, and they never warp in on time. Just kind of a nightmare. But it's mostly been worth it these days in PvZ, just to throw down the one cannon, spend the rest of your minerals on more important things. Well, a lot of hatcheries coming up for effort. 2 additional hatcheries right between the main and the natural expansion. Let's see, has his Overlords positioned, strategically positioned out there with the Scourge as well. He will chase down that Corsair, keep the Corsair away. The Corsair, it got the scouting information. Wasn't able to take down an Overlord or anything, but did get the scouting information. Very important. Here come 2 little groupings of Scourge. That's what a Scourge sounds like. Anyway, Scourge running up, looking for the Corsairs. Probably going to go straight into this main, try to snipe one since there's the cannon. Just now warping in. Scourge used for scouting purposes that managed to get close to the Corsair. Additional gateways for Best. And one of the best things about Best is in later games when you just count the number of gateways he has. I love it. I think in one game he has something like 30 gateways, but of course that was a PvT. It's a bit different than a PvZ. You don't want to have that many gateways in a PvZ unless you're looking at late game. But plenty of Corsairs out for Best. He's grouping them by his main Nexus, and now he's kind of moving out. He thinks he has enough to destroy Scourge now, which he does not. He only had the 5 Corsairs. Not quite enough to melt Scourge, especially when you have one Corsair just kind of out in front of the rest. Makes it kind of a sitting duck with a whole lot of Hydras working their way up to the natural expansion for Best. So Best is throwing down more cannons, making sure he can fight back this attack. He has 4 cannons now, the 5th will warp in soon, so he should be okay. For the time being, this will be kind of difficult to fight back, but just because of how this choke is positioned, it's going to be very difficult for the Hydras to get a nice arc run in there. Dark Templar, by the way, taken out outside of Effort's natural expansion. But the High Templar are being morphed now, and this is a very awkward choke to attack for a big Hydralist army. I never really considered that before looking at the map and looking at the map during matchups like this, but yeah, that was extremely awkward to attack, so Effort's kind of fallen back for now. It's just too difficult to get to those cannons. I mean, normally when a Hydralist break, you'll be able to attack a lot of cannons at once, but with a choke like that, it's basically just one at a time, which is extremely not fun. It is unfun. There we go. But Effort is setting up for a drop, I think. I thought he was already loading up his Overlords. A little bit difficult to tell there, but he already has his Overlord speed, and he's moving up with all of his Overlords to the natural expansion. So he might just try a full frontal attack with the Hydras, fending off the Corsairs, which did get the scout on where the Hydralists were. That was probably the most important information that Best can have at the moment. It's just, where are those Hydras? Got to position those High Templar, get ready for this. Because, okay, Effort, he's taking the 6 o'clock position, taking the 6 o'clock. Oh, the Overlords are just out there, completely unprotected. Overlords getting chased around by the Corsairs, finally falling back to the Hydras. But, yeah, Effort's got to be a lot more careful, keep his Overlords by his Hydras at all times. Because if all of those Overlords go down, and they will all go down if they're caught off guard like that again in that big clump that they were earlier, it's going to be bad times for effort. There's another, there's one Overlord going down. The rest are kind of in a clump by the Hydras for the defense. But right now, there's not much that effort can do besides get destroyed like that, besides letting his Overlords get mauled by the Corsairs. Just running around. I'm pretty sure the Corsairs do have the +1 attack because they're melting Overlords fairly quickly. There's more gateways for Best. He's grouping up his army, Zealot army. There's Lurker eggs. So you're going to see lurkers to support the Hydras out in the middle of the map. I think that's always smart. I think lurkers are kind of not as well utilized in ZVP these days as they have been in the past. Because they're mostly, I think that Zerg players are scared of getting stormed off the face of the earth. But it's great to have some along with a huge Hydraless army like this because they just attack the Zealots. Zealots are your main priority when going up there with the Hydras. Dragoons won't pose that much of a threat. They will against the lurkers, but not against the Hydras. Okay. Oh, man. I think the Best is going to attack the 6 o'clock base if he found out about it now. I think there was a drop of lurkers. Yeah, Effort tried to drop some lurkers behind each of the bases. Those were taken down very quickly by Best. Seems he's on top of this game today. But Best did not attack that 6 o'clock position, interestingly enough. He must have seen the creep down there, but no, he's just kind of floating around the middle of the map with these Zealots, probably trying just to get back to his main army, because that's going to give him the most strength soon. Effort, he's trying to take out the map artifact, which will give him access behind the main to that 3rd base.